Hi, I'm Ellen March, and I'm going to take you through how to make this great looking tote bag. Now, what's cool about the bag is we're using this metallic flecked cork fabric, which has kind of the look and feel of leather, but it's super easy to sew. I have this piece partially sewn. This is the outer part of the bag, and I'm going to go out of order a little bit to show you the purse feet. I have one in here, and I have marked my locations for the purse feet. And it's really just as simple as following the directions that come with the purse feet. This would be how you mark your locations for your little slits, which these are going to fit into. So you would just mark those, use a craft knife or a razor blade to cut just along those lines. And then you would poke these through. And I'll show you this one that's already finished. Here's what it looks like on the wrong side of the fabric. So you just do that 4 times, and then your feet are attached, and you're ready for the next step. And I'm gonna head over to the machine and talk about top stitching with metallic thread. I like to use a ditch quilting foot. It has a little rudder on it, and I'm gonna place that along the seam and just move my needle over slightly so that I have a great guideline for top stitching. Now, metallic thread comes in all kinds of different varieties and colors, just like fabrics. And you can choose just an original, regular metallic thread. A lot of people get intimidated when sewing with metallic thread. But really, you just need to swap out your needles, metallic thread or a top stitch, or metallic or top stitch needle. And you can slow down your machine if you are super intimidated. But I find just going a little slow and making sure that you've got your nice foot on, and move my needle over a little bit. So you can see that by placing the rudder of that foot right up against the seam, there's no guesswork for getting a straight top stitch. And this fabric really just moves through the machine like butter. It's so nice to sew. Okay, and you can see I had no trouble sewing with that metallic thread. I actually chose a thread that has metallic flecks running through it. And here's our finished top stitching. And I just embroidered a little sample here. I just made up a little tag for the bag so that you can see the little flecks that are running through this polyester thread. It's just a really pretty look. It looks almost exactly like this metallic linen. So the next step is going to be putting the sides on the bag. And you might be wondering, how are we going to go across this rectangle with another rectangle? So I'm going to show you a little trick for that. You want to make sure to align these 2 seams so that they are perfect. And we're going to sew down this side edge. Let me change my foot back to my standard presser foot. Okay, and I want to make sure I'm at a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. Your seam allowance is really important as we get to the corner. I'm going to go back to my center needle position, and I'm going to stop stitching exactly a 1/2 inch from the corner. And you'll see why that is so important. Yeah, I did serge the edges of my pieces so that they wouldn't fray, and so it kind of adds another little professional finish. You certainly do not have to serge the edges of cork because it's just super stable and has no fraying capabilities at all. But I just kind of went around all of my pieces. So once I get exactly 1/2 inch seam allowance, I'm leaving my needle down in the fabric, raising my presser foot, and I come in right at the needle, and I'm going to clip into that seam allowance. Now we have a little notch, we can pivot the fabric and slide it over to align our seam allowances. All right, now press our foot down, make sure I'm at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and keep sewing to the opposite corner. All right, I'm gonna trim my threads and just show you what the corner looks like. So when you turn this to the right side, you have a perfectly sewn corner. It's a great little tip. So obviously you would do the other edge, you will attach the other side, and I will show you what that looks like. Here we have the finished front bag. Our corners are nice, our sides are on, and then I press the upper edge a 1/2 inch toward the wrong side, and it's ready for the lining to be inserted. So we've got to sew the lining. I'm just gonna give you an overview here. The lining has a nice little padded pocket. It has foam interfacing inside, and you can slip your laptop or tablet in there, so that's a nice feature to add to the bag. And I've also got this nice zippered pocket. It's pretty good size, and just, again, professional finishes on the inside of your bag. So you'll sew the sides onto the lining the exact same way that we did for the outer piece, clipping into that seam allowance and making sure you have nice corners. So once your lining is created, you will add straps. And another cool thing about this cork fabric is there are pre-made straps available. So you don't have to worry about folding your cork several different times and top stitching through all of that. Get the pre-made straps and you're ready to go. So these are placed in the correct locations per the pattern. And you leave it wrong side out, slip it into the outer bag. Make sure all your pockets are in there nice. And then I am going to clip through everything, matching seam allowances, making sure that my strap ends are between both layers. And again, we're going to be top stitching. So once that is finished, you essentially have your finished bag. But I like to add even more finishing touches. So you can see here, I have some rivets. And rivets are readily available. And again, really easy to use. They come with their own instructions on the back of the packaging. I do want to mention though, when you are putting in rivets, you want to get yourself some kind of block of wood, something similar to that. You can see the marks that the tools have made when I was inserting them. So don't use your precious cutting mat for this step. You want to get a block of wood. You need a mallet that has, that's not a traditional hammer, so it's a little bit softer on your fabric. But your process for inserting these, you would put your fabric down and measure where you want your rivet to go. Use an awl to poke a hole. And again, same thing as for the purse feet, you don't want your hole to be too big because obviously then you're gonna have some fraying and a big old hole where that rivet is gonna go. So you wanna be really cognizant of that. So your rivet goes on here, your fabric would go on top at the hole location. Use your tools as suggested by the packaging, and then you just whack it with your mallet, and all of a sudden you have these really nice rivets. So just a few finishing touches for your beautiful metallic bag, and you'll have a nice professional finish when you're done.